Today we are going to hear 3 budget requests from KPERS, Pooled Money Investment, and the State Treasurer's Office. We're going to start with KPERS. Stephen, you want to take us through the budget analysis?
Sure. I'm going to be referencing this budget analysis that I believe should be in front of you. Great. So, as you can all see, Alan Conroy, the Executive Director of KPERS, is with us in the audience. I'm going to give a brief overview on the KPERS budget, and I'll leave specific details on the agency operations to him. So, as this committee knows, KPERS is both a retirement system as well as a state agency that administers that retirement system. As a system, there are a number of different components within KPERS: KPERS State, School, Local, KPNF, the KPERS Judge, the Kansas Retirement System for Judges. What you see reflected in this document are expenditures related to the agency operations. That refers to just the costs of administering the KPERS system as a whole. So I'm just going to jump into fiscal year 23 and 24. I'm going to stay at the executive summary level, which is the first page or two. You can find more details later on if you want. And I'm happy to answer questions on any of the details therein. So in general, the KPERS budget is largely reflected in your document as being for a couple things. The first is for compensation of its employees. Some major changes that you'll see here are changes in investment management and consultant fees. There's expenditures for projects such as modernization of the pension administration system. The one thing I'd like to note before getting into the budget request as a whole is that their budget for their core services remains pretty stable year to year. Pulled the numbers for the past 5 or so years, it's remained pretty stable, absent extraordinary projects like the modernization of the pension administration system. So jumping into 23, which you'll find the summary for on page 388, the KPERS agency requests about $63.9 million in expenditures and about 98.4 FTE positions. This is a bit under what the legislature approved last year, about 4.4 million under, and this decrease is primarily due to the adjustment in the assumed rate of return as the KPERS board lowered the rate of return from 7.75 to 7 last May. That adjusted their projections out, which adjusted the budgeted fees for their investment managers, actuarial consultants, and so on, since those fees are keyed off of the projected performance of the fund. As the projections, as projected returns decreases, so too do those fees. And that really accounts for the lion's share of the changes in 23. The governor concurs with this request, so in that version, the governor's recommendation, that version of the bill, is the same as the agency's request. In fiscal 24, which you'll see at the bottom of 388 to the beginning of 389, the agency requests about $65.9 million in expenditures and about 98.4 FTE positions. This is a bit higher than in 23, about 2 million higher. This increase is due to an increase in those investment management and consultant fees. We see a slight decrease in 23, and we see it start to increase in 24. That is most of what I have to say about KPERS as a whole. There's some additional detail in this document, which you'll find. The one thing I do want to point out is page 395, which will give you an overview of, an overview of the modernization project for the pension administration system. There have been a couple of updates to that since last year. KPERS is now currently in an RFP process for a new vendor, but the budget, the planned budget for it currently remains the same until they get new information. So unless the committee has any specific questions on the budget request, would be happy to answer them, but otherwise I'll turn the mic over to Alan.
Okay, Stephen, are there questions of Stephen on the budget request? I see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we'll have Alan Conroy from KPERS. Welcome, Alan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be here and certainly try to be responsive to any questions as they come up or at the appropriate time. Today we'll just be focusing, as Stephen has done and certainly done a good job highlighting in terms of the overview. The board had course, prepared the request, and the governor concurred with the board's request, and that's what I stand before you today to see if you would also concur in that board request. You know, and just reminder, of course, we got the 3 retirement systems, about 333,000 active and retired members, and inactive, about 1,500 employers. And just on the kind of the day-to-day operations side from that sort of nondescript building over there on Kansas Avenue that used to be an IBM building, we serve all those 300,000 members, those 1,500 employers, and we do that. We get about 100,000 phone calls a year, over 22,000 emails. There's about 39,000 people, members that are coming in or leaving or transferring between the retirement system groups or employers, and then there's about 6,000 new retirees every year. And of course, our purpose is to pay those retirement benefits. And so over the course of the year, we pay 1.3 million benefit payments, and it totals just over $2 billion with a B. And as you know, or probably know, of course, the trust fund is just that. And so, as I always tell our members, if there's a true lockbox in Topeka, it's the Capers Trust Fund. Legislature certainly controls the flow of money into that trust fund, but once it's in the trust fund, then those IRS rules and case law and statute and federal law all then sort of bolster that as a true lockbox, and the money can only be taken out either for the administration of the system, but mainly for the purpose of the trust fund, of course, is to pay those benefits. And just to remind you, we have a separate Capers 457 plan, is that deferred comp plan. It's all employee contribution. There's over $1 billion there. State employees have the option to belong to that, and about 400 of the 1,500 local employers have elected to also affiliate with that Capers 457 voluntary deferred comp program. Just the revenue sources, again, about half from the investments of the trust fund, about a third from employer contributions, and then the balance from employee contributions. I think from previous testimony, of course, the investment trust earnings have been challenging. At the end of fiscal year 22, it was a negative 4.7%. And of course, a lot of volatility. And now as we look through the preliminary number through the end of January, it's a positive 4.5%. And so certainly been some changes there, but again, if you watch your own investments, it can change pretty dramatically from one day to the next. And of course, all that is that assumed rate of return now at 7%. Just in terms of the actual, on the expenditure side, we do send out, the estimate is $2.2 billion in total benefits for 23, $2.3 billion for 24. The next largest one is, again, as Stephen had indicated, certainly the investment-related expenses would be the next one, and that's what we pay our investment fund managers. All of our funds are externally managed. We do have an investment staff then that monitors those various investment fund managers, but since we're a large institutional investor, I think we get very competitive rates from those fund managers, and in the current fiscal year, those total fees are estimated to be 0.143%, and then just a little bit below that in the budget estimate for fiscal year 2024. And so those fees total, though, about $37 or $38 million between the 2 years. And part of it, which drives the budget, that increase in fees in the amount, that 1.39%, that assumes in the budget year that we will earn that 7%, because of course then that drives what those fund managers earns. And so I hope we earn 7%. We'll see how the year plays out. And then the balance of the funds are the administration program, just the day-to-day operations of the agency, about $26 million in both both years. And again, pretty, in terms of those general operating expenditures, pretty consistent from year to year. The one item, again, as Stephen had mentioned, is we're in the process of a pension administration system. Last year, we had hoped to be able to sort of improve it in place with our current vendor. As the summer has, this last summer, I think we had some strong concerns about whether our current vendor would be able to help us through that, to get us to a new platform and an updated system. We've been with that current vendor since 2005, so a long history. And of course, when you think about it, lots of changes through the years in terms of legislative changes, in terms of benefit changes. So Capers 2, Capers 3, working after retirement, drop, and on down the list. And so the system's still working. It's just not as efficient as we would hope. I think in a technical term, I would call it's kind of clunky now. Still getting the job done, but not as efficient or streamlined as we would hope. So the board has decided to go out for an RFP, and so that'll be issued this spring. We hope to have a vendor selected by early fall, and of course, then that may impact. There may be a revision to the 24 budget, whatever is approved then, to see once we get those numbers from the RFP. But just as a side note, Appropriations Committee approved this request yesterday, but I guess my bottom line request is that you would concur with the governor's budget recommendation for the Capers operating budget.
All right. Thank you, Alan. Committee, are there questions? I see none. Thank you. Committee, would you entertain getting these off our plate as we do them today? I think they're pretty straightforward. Any objections to that? Is there a motion on the Capers budget? Senator Olson? Olson moves. Dietrich seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, let's turn our attention to the State Treasurer's Office. Jennifer, do you want to give us an overview?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Light. I'm with KLRD. Shauna Wake, the Director of Operations and Fiscal Services, is in the audience. We're starting with the Office of the State Treasurer. The Office of the State Treasurer is the designated fiscal agent for the state of Kansas and is responsible for the timely receipt and deposit of all receipts and revenues into the state treasury. It is also the paying agent for the state and municipal bonds and is tasked with the disposition of unclaimed property. The 2022 legislature approved a budget of $32.6 million, all from special revenue funds for fiscal year 2023. The next several pages are overview of the budget and the funds for the agency. If you turn to page 120, we'll go into a little bit more detailed analysis. Top of page 120 is a budget request summary. The agency submits a revised estimate of $28.8 million, all from special revenue funds in fiscal year 23. This is the decrease of $3.8 million. The decrease is due to anticipated unclaimed property claims decrease. The agency also includes 40.0 FTE positions, which is the same as the approved amount, and the governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2023 revised estimate. I can stand for questions on 23, or I can keep going. Top of page 122 begins fiscal year 2024. The agency requests $35.9 million for fiscal year 24. This is an increase of $7.1 million above the revised estimate for 23. It includes the following adjustments: the Star Bonds Food Sales Tax Revenue Replacement Fund. The agency requests an increase of $7.0 million, all from special revenue funds, for the Star Bonds Food Sales Tax Revenue Replacement Fund. We do have a special topic specifically on this on page 123. The request also includes other adjustments, totaling just over $96,000. includes an overall increase of just over $39,000 in contractual services, an increase in salaries and wages of just over $28,000, and it's partially the increase in salaries and wages is due to employer contributions for group health insurance, partially offset by a reduction in employer contributions for CAPERS. The agency also includes the 40.0 FTE positions for fiscal year '24. The bottom of page 122, you can see the governor recommends $44.3 million, all from special revenue funds. This is an increase of $8.4 million above the agency's request. And the reasoning for this is that the governor recommends an additional $8.4 million for a total of $15.4 million for the Star Bonds Food Sales Tax Revenue Replacement Fund. I'd be happy to stand for questions on fiscal years 2023 and 24.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions? I see none. Are there any questions of the agency? Senator Olson? Go right ahead. Olson moves, Dietrich seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's now look at Pooled Money Investment Board.
For Pooled Money Investment Board, I want to mention that Karen Stadelman, the Accounting and Operations Manager, is here in the audience as well. The Pooled Money Investment Board manages the investable state money available from the State General Fund and the hundreds of other individual state agency funds received by the Office of the State Treasurer. It also provides investment management services for the individual state agencies with statutorily authorized investment authority. The agencies include the Department of Transportation and the Healthcare Stabilization Fund. Pooled Money Investment Board also administers the Kansas Municipal Investments Pool, a state program providing local municipal entities with an investment alternative for their idle funds. The 2022 legislature approved a budget of just over $812,000, all from the Pooled Money Investment Portfolio Fee Fund for fiscal year 2023. If you turn to page 200, we'll go a little bit more in detail in the analysis. Top of page 200 is the summary of the fiscal year 2023 request. The agency estimates revised expenditures of just under $813,000. This is unchanged from the fiscal year 2022 approved amount. There are some shifts in the expenditures, which includes a decrease of just over $1,000 in salaries and wages due to a decrease in employee contributions to employer fringe benefits. And then it moves the computer software lease costs from contractual services to capital outlay at the request of the legislature. The governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2023 revised estimate, and the governor's recommendation also includes 5.0 FTE positions, which is the same as the agency's request. The top of page 202 is the fiscal year 2024. The agency requests just over $805,000 for fiscal year 2024. This is the decrease of just over $7,000, and it includes the following adjustments. It includes an increase of just under $4,000 in salaries and wages due to employer contributions for group health insurance. It includes a decrease in contractual services of just under $12,000 due to the lack of a performance audit. The performance audit is done every 2 years, and fiscal year 2024 will be an off year for the statutory audit. And there is another adjustment of $799 due to the estimated costs of computer software lease increasing slightly. The governor concurs with the agency's request for fiscal year 2024, and the governor's recommendation also includes the 5.0 FTE for fiscal year 2024, which is the same as what the agency requested. I'd be happy to stand for questions on the Pooled Money Investment Board.
Jennifer, thank you. Committee, are there questions? I see none. Thank you. Senator Olson, you're on a roll. Okay. Dietrich seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, we are now going to have a hearing on Senate Bill 76, but I need to go notify our proponent, so just stand at ease for a minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 76. Eileen, can you give us a bill brief, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Senate Bill 76 amends KSA 40-4903 and KSA 40-5512 and creates an exemption to the continuing education requirements for certain insurance producer licensees and certain public adjuster licensees. So under current law, licensed insurance agents and public adjusters are required to earn a minimum of 18 CECs that include at least 3 hours of instruction in insurance ethics. Senate Bill 76 would create an exception to the requirement for the following individuals. Any licensee who has earned a minimum of 85 career points and has been continuously licensed in the state of Kansas for the immediately preceding 15 years, or any licensee who has not been continuously licensed in Kansas for the immediately preceding 15 years, but would otherwise qualify for exemption based on career points earned, and who provides certification from the Insurance Department of all states where the licensee was licensed for the immediately preceding 15 years, stating periods where the agent was licensed and any periods where the licensee's license was suspended, revoked, lapsed, or otherwise disciplined. And as used in the bill, career points means the age of the insurance producer in whole years added to the number of years that the insurance producer has been continuously licensed. And continuously licensed means a period of time in years during which the insurance agent was licensed and the license was not subject to suspension, revocation, lapse, or other discipline by the Kansas Insurance Department or any other state insurance department. And if enacted, Senate Bill 76 would go into effect on July 1st of this year. And with that, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, are there questions? I see none. We'll now turn our attention to the proponents, and we have Senator Virgil Peck. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to appear before the committee on Senate Bill 76 in favor of the legislation. It is something that I have tried to be very careful in crafting to make certain that we don't do as some states. For example, some states, you reach a certain age, no matter how long you've been in the business, boom, no continuing education requirements. But passage of Senate Bill 76 would allow Kansas insurance agents to be on a semi-equal footing with agents in at least 12 other states by exempting them from continuing education credits that are mandated by the state. Now, the first question some people ask, pardon me, is why 85 points? That's what KPERS is. That's a simple answer. There's no other reason. 85. So, for example, if an agent is 55 years of age, they've been licensed 30 years, meaning they started when they were 25, they would reach their 85 career points. But they would have to be, no matter what age they are, continuously licensed for at least 15 years. If they are an agent who has faced any type of disciplinary action from the department or have allowed their license to lapse, it starts over when their license is reinstated and they are in good standing with the Kansas Department of Insurance for 15 years, or if they just moved to Kansas from another state, as long as they were in good stead with the other state that they came from. I have included in my testimony examples of 4 other states that have exemptions similar to 76. I won't go over those because you can read those. Some will tell you that continuing education credits, CECs, are a good thing. I totally disagree with that. I've been an agent for 43, almost 44 years. When I started, there were no continuing education requirements. So I've been around a while. Sorry. Makes me feel old, Mr. Chairman, when I say it that way. But, yeah, but in any event, I believe it was 1982 when they were first put into place for continuing education. Honestly, my very first continuing education course, when I was 23 years of age, I enjoyed, found beneficial. But I have taken many, I could go on with several minis, Mr. Chairman, I won't, hours of continuing education, and they are of zero benefit to me, and many insurance agents will tell you the same thing. Why do I say that? I'm a single line agent. I write life insurance, that's all. There's only so much you can learn about life insurance industry. The fact that I have to take 18 hours every 2 years of continuing education takes me away from production and costs me money. Now, why do I say it's of no value to me? Because I can take, as a life insurance agent, courses in car insurance, count for my continuing education. And that's totally worthless to me because I cannot even talk to a person about their car insurance because I'm not licensed to write P&C. Kansas has 2 lines of licensing, P&C, property and casualty, which is car and auto, and then your L&H, life and health, which would be your life insurance and your health insurance coverage. A lot of agents in the state of Kansas write MedSup only, health insurance, Medicare supplement, and they can take a course in homeowners insurance. Does not benefit their licensing in any way, shape, or form. There's no testing required of these. You just simply have to have been present in a class or have had the computer on and every so often reach over and click the button when they say, Virgil, are you going to answer the question? Oh yeah. Now, you may say, well, that's wrong. I get it, that's wrong. I should be paying attention, but it's not going to benefit me as an agent, nor any of my policyholders. Now, there is the 3 hours of ethics. Okay, I got that. That one I don't mind so much. But most agents who've been in the business a while are going to be doing their best to learn the industry. I've been told, well, you need to make sure you're up to speed with any changes in law. I got that as well. However, you only have to take it every 2 years. I've got to take mine before my birthday in August. So in July, I'll be sitting there in front of a computer if this doesn't pass, taking this continuing education. I won't do it again until July of 25. If there are any changes in law at the federal or state level during that 2-year period, how will I know about it? Well, I can assure you, every company I'm licensed with will be sending me a bulletin and contacting me, and we also have to take anti-money laundering training from our insurance companies that don't count as CE. So my point is, any agent who's really caring about their policyholders and about their profession, they're going to make certain that they stay up to speed without continuing education. I will add, nothing in Senate Bill 76 would keep any agent, any veteran agent, from taking continuing education hours. They can knock themselves out with all the hours they want. They can only count 18 every 2 years. They can't carry forward. So that's something that I believe is important for us to all remember. Now, on page 3, line 13, you will note in the legislation that Kansas already has several exemptions to continuing education. This would just add one for veteran agents, such as myself. Just briefly, I'm 63 years of age, been a licensed agent for 43 years, so if I were to count my points, I've got 106 career points to add. And the last thing that I will mention is I would suggest that there probably needs to be a technical amendment on page 8 of the legislation where it exempts public adjusters. It does not have the 85 career points language there. It just says if they've been a public adjuster who's been licensed for 15 years or longer, they would be exempt. And I don't know if that was just an oversight or what, but I personally would suggest that. So, Mr. Chairman, again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. This legislation is not meant to be self-serving because I honestly haven't found an agent in my area, SEK, that feels, and why they won't come and testify, I don't know if they're afraid of something or what it is, but they won't come and testify. But anyway, I have not found an agent who says, yeah, I like CE. I think they're valuable to me. Now, you will hear from some agents who say they are. Difference of opinion. Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator. Committee, are there questions? Senator Gossage and Senator Cluse.
Senator Peck, thank you for being here. Since I am only 27 years old, of course, this wouldn't apply to me.
Got that. I understand. It's not for everyone. You young people.
I'm totally teasing, of course. However, as the legislative chair for the Kansas Association of Health Underwriters, this is health and life insurance agents, we have approached this. I also serve on the insurance committee for National Conference of Insurance Legislators. This has come up many times for all of the reasons you just gave. Every time, yes, you get bulletins. Yes, you have WebEx. Yes, you have Zoom meetings. lots of different opportunities with every single carrier that you write about the latest, the newest, what's going on with them, what's going on the federal level, the state level, et cetera. And so our organization offers CE credits to our members. They get a reduced price if they are a member. Oh, some on the board, and they may be listening, would go against your bill because they're like, wait a minute, we want to have members. Wait a second. We'd like to, we get this money, you know, for people to come in, and that's how we get speakers. But it becomes increasingly difficult to find a speaker who can give a CE that people don't already know about. And they're just like, okay, I'll come because I get that 2 hours of CE or that 1 hour CE. I do have a question in here. So that's why I'm purposely not looking at the chair, because I know he's thinking, Beverly, Senator Gossage, get to your question. So this is my question. In visiting, I see that we have 2 opponents that are coming up. Have you had any discussion with the 2 opponents? Granted, most of them are property and casualty agents, or with any, you said agents in your area, any other agents that have said they have found, you said not in your area, I would agree, CE credits. So have you visited with either of the opponents about this at all?
Thank you for the question. Great question. I appreciate the question, honestly, once you finally got to it. The answer, sorry. The answer is yes. I have had numerous conversations with KAIA over the years. We just never come to an agreement. I personally think it's because several members of KAIA provide CEs. That's a way to earn a living. The other opponent, I haven't visited with the individuals. I have visited with some of their agents, but they are not willing to step up, go against their association. But out of real courtesy to me, and I sincerely appreciate the lobbyist coming to me and telling me, Senator, we're going to be opposing your legislation. So that's the only conversation I've had with that person. But I have had conversations with many captive agents, meaning they write for one company only, and many independent agents. And I have told both of the opponents that I am assuring them if they were to secretly ballot all of their members, it would overwhelmingly be, let's provide an exemption for continuing education.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for your testimony, and I'll try to be serious here. I, too, have been licensed in the past as a life insurance agent and real estate, and so I understand all the CE requirements. I'm just curious, what now, and that's been a number of years ago, won't go into that, but what's the average cost every 2 years out of pocket for you?
Okay, you asked basically 2 questions. What's the average cost? And then you said for me, last time I paid was $9 an hour. And that was to have a computer on with someone talking in the background as I was doing other things. However, if you go to the course in person, you can sit there. As long as you're not playing on your phone, reading the newspaper, and don't fall asleep, you get the credits. That's generally about $10 an hour. So I've heard that it can be as low as $5 an hour, but there is always a cost. But for me personally, cheapest I've done is $9 an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Peck, for being here. I do have a constituent who would have been here today who is very interested in this bill but had other commitments and couldn't make it. He did send an email. I don't know if it went to everybody or just a few of us, but outlines his situation kind of similar to what you outlined in regard to he's been an agent for over, well, since April of 1970, he indicates. And there's a few things that he mentions that I thought I might ask you about to see if you could expound upon. He indicates that he wouldn't be allowed to continue on contract with insurance companies if he wasn't keeping up to date with changes or different things that are available. Can you expound upon that? Is that, I don't know a whole lot about how this works as far as agents working for different companies.
Great question. Thank you for asking that. That is true. If I were to retire today from active production, several of the companies that I write for, that I receive income from, renewals, would cut off my renewals if I allowed my license to lapse. So a lot of agents who are no longer producers must maintain their license and take the CEs in order to receive the renewals from business that they may have written many years ago, 20, 30 years ago. So that's, in your constituent's case, he's having to take 18 hours of CE just to continue to draw income.
May I follow up? If he did something wrong, then would the company basically not renew his contract?
Well, if he's not producing, some companies don't renew your contract. I don't know what you mean by did something wrong. If he's
Well,
not
I don't
producing,
know.
he can't do something wrong.
Did he sell
other
a
than not-
policy that doesn't apply to a certain situation, or,
For this gentleman, Senator Holscher, I would say, since he's not producing, he's up in years, all he needs to do is maintain his license, and to maintain his license, he has to take the CE, continuing education courses, 18 hours every 2 years.
Along that situation, though, if you are a licensed agent and you are producing or not producing, in this case, not producing, I received the same email. But if you're receiving those renewals, then you are also servicing that client. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, not necessarily.
Okay.
It means that I've got several policyholders who have been assigned to me because the agent that wrote the policy has moved on, retired, whatever. I do not receive, and I have asked the company, why can't I receive the renewals? Well, because we're paying them to the retired agent. So they're not necessarily, they can legally by the Kansas Department, they can have contact with these policyholders, but majority do not.
Okay. Thank you very much. Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a Kansas law license, so I'm required and familiar with continuing education requirements. However, I'm not familiar with career points and having been licensed at least a preceding number of years. So I'm interested to hear about it, and thank you for the explanation. Do you know, maybe this is a question for the revisor, is there any other Kansas license that already uses career points, or you're exempt if you've been continuously licensed the immediately preceding so many number of years?
Well, I can answer that question, Mr. Chairman, and surprise, surprise, this is a brainchild of mine. Thinking outside the box, it's creative, I believe, but in Kansas, there's no career points. So this would be, you would be on the cutting edge of new.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gosh, quickly if we can. We need to get to the opponents also.
Sausage and quickly, pretty funny. No, I will make it quick. I will just say this loquacious girl will mention that health is very different than life, in that you must maintain, so what Senator Holscher was referring to, you must maintain your CE credits in order to keep your license, and if there is no retiring. If you cannot service your clients and you have to continue to keep your license, you do not receive any residuals. There are no residuals. It's very different, from life insurance. But it remains the same as far as CE credits go. You have to keep up your CE credits, regardless if you've been there 20 years, 30 years. And I just thought I would clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and
We
committee.
will now turn our attention to the opponents. We have Dan Holscher with KAI. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 76. I'm Dave Holscher, Executive Director for the Kansas Association of Insurance Agents. I'm not going to just reread our testimony, but just as background, KAIA has 320 member agencies across the state of Kansas with approximately over 600 locations of independent agents. We employ over 2,000 licensed professionals, and our members write over $2 billion in gross annual written premium in the property casualty market. At the association, we do provide CE credit opportunities and educational opportunities for our members. It's something we invest in. It is not a moneymaker for the association, but it is something that we believe strongly in, and it's not just about the CE requirements, but it's about providing opportunities for our member agents to get better at what they do, more knowledgeable, run better operations, and ultimately serve their customers better. The insurance industry is one that is consistently changing, whether it's the products, whether it's the regulation, whether it's the policies, whether it's the marketplace. And one of the things I wanted to do, I shared with you, we just got back from our big convention in Wichita where we had over 600 insurance professionals. And it was a very successful conference. And at that conference, we provide approximately, 15 CE credit opportunities. But there were some classes in here I just wanted you to note because I think they touch on the changing environment of the industry and the changing customer needs out there and the need to continually be educated. And CE requirements are the minimum standard that we have for that. But if you look at one of the classes that we have listed here is ensuring the new future of agriculture, vertical farming. That is something that is a change. It's something that's new, and you wouldn't have known about that probably 2 or 3 years ago. Parametric insurance. That's something that didn't exist 2 years ago. And it's something that could be a viable product for customers in Kansas. The economic pressures in getting insurance right. Inflation's at an all-time high, right? 40 years. How does that affect the valuation of your coverage? So these are just some of the things these are the type of classes that we provide, and I think show that things change within our industry, and it's important for people to stay up to speed. So, with that being said, our Government Affairs Committee has come out and said that we feel like when you're interacting with customers that you should be required to meet the CE requirements. I applaud Senator Peck with his creativity with this bill. I thought it was very creative the way he did this. And we understand that, there may be some situations, depending on the line of business or the reason maybe somebody is retiring, that maybe there's a reason for that, but just waiving the CE requirements by meeting this number is not something that KAIA can support. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
And thank you. I'm going to take the other opponent's testimony, and then we'll ask questions of either one of you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, we have Scott Colby with the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity today to provide testimony on behalf of the members of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. NAIFA Kansas members are engaged in offering insurance and other related financial services, and they occupy a unique position of liaison between the purchaser of an insurance contract and the suppliers, the companies of insurance and closely related financial products. Inherent in this role is the combination of professionalism, the professional duty to the client and to the company as well. An ethical balance is required to avoid any conflict between these two obligations. Part of NAIFA Kansas's code of ethics is to adhere to professional standards of conduct in helping my clients to protect insurable obligations and attain their financial security objectives. We present accurately and honestly all facts essential to clients' decisions to perfect skills and to increase knowledge through continuing education and to conduct business in such a way that it helps raise the professional standards of those in the profession with us. And we work to keep informed with respect to applicable laws and regulations and to observe them in the practice of our profession. Compliance, rules, and regulations, federal and state laws, insurance company products and procedures, and the investment environment and risks change every year. All insurance representatives must keep up with these changes annually. For those of us who would stop keeping up with the changing times, the word professional would start to become meaningless. NAIFA Kansas opposes any efforts to provide an exemption for licensed insurance agents who have earned a minimum of 85 career points and have been continuously licensed in Kansas for at least the immediately preceding 15 years, or from other states if verification can be provided. And NAIFA Kansas offers many opportunities for their members to easily get their continuing education requirements through online services and seminars. So the 18 hours should not be a burden on the insurance professional in any age or of years of professional services. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today.
Thank you for your testimony. Committee, are there questions of the opponents? Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for Dan Holscher. Or either of you. If you come up to the mic, that'd be great. Just, do you have a response? I mean, I heard your testimony and it makes sense. But I mean, Senator Peck did bring up a piece of 4 other states do have these year and ages requirements. So it's not entirely unique. It's not entirely brainchild, I would say. And I mean, have you looked across other states that maybe do this and have an opinion about that? I mean, they are doing this. So, I mean, it's not absolutely new.
No, it isn't something that
we've response.
It's not something that we've necessarily researched at this point in time. I know Senator Peck has looked into that. So I do know, and Senator Peck may be able to comment, there was one state that I know of that did have one and withdrew it. But I haven't necessarily done the research to be able to tell you good, bad, or indifferent. So my apologies, I don't have a good answer for you there.
Senator Warren, quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your testimony. Has there been any thought about reducing the number from 18 hours to lower? And where does the 18 hours fit in other licenses? I know law, it's 12 per year. I don't know what medicine is, but any thoughts on that?
That is something that the insurance department may be better able to address that, but we did have a licensing bill within the last couple of years where there was movement to move to 24 hours of CE credits, which we thought was moving from 12 to 24 a little extreme, so we were able to negotiate that to 18 hours. But at the NAIC level, they're looking at 24 hours as the standard. So up until 2 years ago, Kansas was the lowest at 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, we're out of time. I appreciate all of the testimony from both the proponents and the opponents. We will not meet tomorrow. We will meet on Monday. Senator Fagg will run the meeting because I'm out of town. And then Tuesday, we will work the remaining bills that we have in committee. We are adjourned.